this is going to take us straight to the fourth critical choice,
Okay.
which was for me to create my community,
Yes.
create my own sense of belonging. And I was in my 30s by the time I realized I knew I didn't belong anywhere. I never really had a sense of belonging, but it was in my early 30s that I realized I wanted to belong.
Right. Right.
And as a little girl, I wouldn't have been able to put the word belong. I wouldn't be able to articulate that I
Right.
that I did not belong. But as an adult, I put that word around it. So I created my own sense of belonging, and I did that through eventually taking the leap of becoming friends with 5 incredible women. And what I learned is that belonging really requires reciprocity. It
Mm-hmm.
requires action.
Mm-hmm.
And that was really hard because I was like, what? Like, I got to share stuff? I got to
Right.
share life
Right.
experiences? Or, anyways, all that being said, I want to dive into this with you.
Yeah.
Has there been a time? Will you share a time in which perhaps you didn't feel like you belonged?
Mm-hmm.
And what does that feel like?
So yeah, again, it's crazy with
You might
me.
have to dig deep.
Well, it's crazy with me because again, if I'm being very transparent and honest, which I
Yeah.
keep talking about, there's a lot of times I think that
Mm.
believe it or not, I think there's a lot of times that I feel like I don't belong. And I think just as a general, what I tend to do is try to just lean into it and throw myself in. And then eventually I walk out of it going, that wasn't so bad, right? But
Yes.
if I were to pick a specific example that stands out to me, years ago, I think it was back in 2004, I actually joined a group of guys for a little community rock band, right? And I can tell
Hold on.
you,
This cannot be a throwaway story. We are going to have to
well,
dive a little bit.
I can tell you, here you go, confession time.
Yes.
I was the girl in college. Now, this was college in the 80s, right? Where, there would be an ad for, band auditions tonight. And they had the little tab that you would, every time I would take the little tab and I would go back to my dorm and I would always throw the tab away because I thought I'm not cool enough. I'm not pretty enough. I'm not thin enough. I'm not talented enough. It's all those inner, like negative
All those not
voices, right?
enoughs.
So here I was, I mean, at the time, again, I just gave the date. So here I was basically in my 40s. And I'm like, you know what? I told myself when I was a young adult, I would never not take a risk. This is crazy. You're in your 40s, just do it. And it was a group of guys where I was friends with one of the guys' wives. So I was familiar with who he was. So bottom line, I joined this band and I truly, when I got into it and I would say to them, again, I'm not cool enough. I'm not edgy enough. I'm not, we would do a gig and they were like, what are you going to wear? And I'm like, capris? Like,
Yes.
I'm like, I am
what?
not, yeah. But I think that the action or what I ended up doing with them
Oh.
is back to that trust. I trusted them. And they were all very supportive of my insecurities, by the way. But I also just got myself to just have fun and enjoy my time with them, connecting with them, connecting with audiences when we did play. And so that's kind of how I got myself to belong. And it really had nothing to do with any of the aesthetic pieces of it. It all had to do with what we were creating together and the relationships we had together and the fun that we had together. So
That's just
yeah,
awesome.
I love
Did
them.
you
They're a great group of
did
guys.
you sing, play an instrument,
Yeah,
both?
I sang, mostly lead.
Wow.
Didn't do as well with backup. That was a risky for me, but did some backup. And then I played keyboards. Yeah. So
It's
yeah.
an awesome story. It's an awesome story. And you created a new community.
Oh my God. They became truly like such a part of my family. And to this day, I mean, I just love them. Yeah. It's a great group of guys.
So how about this? I want this very pointed question. I want to hear your response. What does it feel like to belong? What does it feel like to belong?
Yeah, I think when you feel and have confidence that you belong, the biggest thing to me is, again, it's freeing. It
Mm,
allows you to be yourself. It allows you to be, again, your true self, to be vulnerable, right? To,
yeah.
again, be open and honest with where you are, and again, to share with others and allow them in. So, yeah, I think it
Yes.
means a lot.
So an interesting thing here that just popped in my mind is or I've thought about this, I've ruminated over this, the idea of community. I think community and belonging go hand in hand.
Yeah,
But when I think about community, I have my little pockets of communities. I have my
right.
work community, I have my neighbor
Yes.
community, I have my church
Yep.
community, whatever it might be. And
Yes.
very, very rarely do those communities intersect,
Exactly. Yes. Correct.
right?
Yeah.
Yet, yet, when they do, when I'm intentional, like I think this is intersecting our communities. We
Agree.
are going to
Yes.
intersect our communities with this. And I feel like that's so powerful. But have you sensed that in your world
Yes.
about your separate communities?
Absolutely. It's something, especially again with the 32 years at Jenny Craig and me
Yeah.
traveling, those communities that I interacted with when I would fly somewhere for work were never really going to be a part of my community here where I live,
Yeah,
right?
right.
So definitely had that. But yeah, I had my band community and their
Yeah.
neighbors, because they were kind of a neighborhood band that got
Oh,
together.
that's great,
So I
right?
became part of the community with their neighbors. I have my Jenny Craig community that frankly goes back years. I mean, tonight, a girl that means the world to me that worked for me years ago at Jenny Craig, and then even forayed into owning her own business outside of weight loss
Oh,
years
wow.
ago. I've known her since she was 17 years old. She and I are going out together tonight, right? So she was a
Awesome.
Jenny Craiger years ago, but left years ago,
Hmm.
and we've maintained the relationship. I have other friends that same thing. They call it JC for life. So we've maintained relationships over the
Yeah.
years. So I've got that community. And again, because of the length of time and the geography, sometimes those intersect, but sometimes there's really not opportunity for them to,
Yeah,
right? Even though it's Jenny Craig, some were from Jenny Craig 23 years ago, some were from Jenny Craig
for
the past
sure.
5 years, right?
Right.
And then, of course, my family. And
Mhm.
then, of course, neighbors. So I think, yeah, you delve into all these different communities. And I think when you do have a chance to have them intersect, it's just that much more beautiful. Yeah.
It is.
Yeah.
It's hard, it's difficult. It's not in your face opportunities to intersect them, but I
Yes.
am with you and I am trying to become more deliberate about how I do that in small ways.
That's
And so
awesome.
thank you for this because this is a way for me to do that too. When I think
Yeah.
about us intersecting, we know each other, but what about the people that don't know you or like the whole thing?
What about my people that don't know you? Exactly.
Yes, yes, and
Exactly.
they get to
Yes.
like hear this and oh my gosh. Oh my gosh, last thing on this and I'm going to move us forward. Jenny Geis whom we love so
Yes.
much so much.
Yes.
Um she there's a quote from C.S. Lewis that she told me about and now I have it written up but an excerpt of the quote is friendship occurs at the moment where you say, "Oh, you too? I thought I was the only one."
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I love that. And so
Yeah.
the more I think people can interact with each other that don't normally interact with each other,
Yeah.
there's an opportunity to be like, "Oh, you too? I thought I was the only one."
It's interesting too that we're talking about this, Trish, and I know it was the plan, but
Yeah.
I 3 weeks ago attended my husband's class reunion, and then a few weeks ago on the weekend attended my class reunion. It was my
Hmm.
40th class reunion. And it was interesting that, and this is not unusual, but that the people that I hung out with at that particular class reunion, really only one or two of them were the ones that I hung out with in high
Hmm.
school. And so when I was working, meeting with this new group, things were, coming to light, someone's talking about, yeah, I was there for my freshman year, but then wasn't for my sophomore, came back in my junior. I'm like, what? And my first thought was, oh my God, that must have been horrible for you. I don't recall that. But the point is, since the class reunion, it had 3 or 4 of them reach out to me
Mm,
and say, oh my gosh, we're going to have a get together for homecoming, blah, blah, blah. Can you be in town? And so here's again a group of people that I went to
yeah,
school with that we didn't hang out at all. And yet now that we're older and we've reconnected, we've
it's
found a
great.
lot of similarities and a lot of things that we enjoyed about each other. So
It's beautiful.
different
I love
community.
it.
Yeah.
Thank you for joining me for our Choose and Become interview series. You could find this episode and others at trishkendall.com. Just go to trishkendall.com/choose-become-interview-series. Or if you have a question or just want to leave a comment, email me, trish@trishkendall.com.